So I realized that this isn't quite the theory, crunchy format that I usually do, but I wanted to do something a little more personal and a little story time because of something really cool that just happened. So here's how it started. A bit before Christmas of last year, I'm getting ready to go teach and I get a Discord notification. It's a friend request from Blackthorn Prod. And I'm like, Noah, no relation to the protagonist of Lighthoof, asked me if I wanted to be part of the Pass the Game challenge. And my first reaction was, I am so not good enough for that, especially because he said it was a 3D project, which I've never done before. And so he asked me if I would like to start my own 2D project. I was still completely petrified and feeling like the world's biggest imposter, but I accepted, knowing that opportunities like this do not come around very often. For those who don't know, Pass the Game, also known as X-Devs Make a Game Without Communicating, is a video format that was, I think, invented by Blackthorn Prod. In it, each game developer gets a set amount of time to work on the game, and then they pass it on to another developer. The videos get a lot of views, and the commenters are very opinionated about the final results and everybody's contributions. So the stakes were pretty high. Day 1, a risky beginning. I got to work immediately. First, I watched all of the previous Pass the Game episodes at 2x speed. Noah had encouraged me to do something new to the channel, and there's only one way to find out if something's been done before. Then I started coming up with ideas. I love tactics games, and I love chess and crazy chess variants, so I thought maybe I'll do something in that vein. I thought of a game where the goal is to get the king to the opposite side of the board, but there are traps and enemy pieces trying to stop you. You have to use your pieces to locate and disarm the traps and defend the king from attack. I made a prototype in my drawing program and I played it and I was like, yeah, this could be fun. I explained it to a few friends and family, and the reaction was basically, that sounds weird. I don't know how to play chess, but I'm sure it's fun. I never really did that Minesweeper thing. So I was definitely going for the gold here. Since apparently Minesweeper is not the universal childhood experience I thought it was, here's how it works. You have a grid, and when you click on a square, it's either a mine or it's not. If it's a mine, you get a game over. If it's not, you get to see how many mines are touching the square you clicked. By getting enough numbers, you can figure out where the mines are and mark them with flags. It's like a little logic puzzle with some luck thrown in at the beginning and the end, which is often seen as a major design problem since logic puzzles and luck shouldn't have to mix so much. I was thinking the King's game actually had the potential to solve some of the problems with Minesweeper. For one thing, using the pawns to do the revealing and disarming means that if you lose one, it doesn't immediately lose you the game. Secondly, you don't have to find every trap, you just have to find enough safe spaces that the king can move across to the goal. Anyway, this game design was a risky move for several reasons. First of all, I've never done anything like it. Lighthoof is all about platforming, combat, exploration, none of which are in this game. Second, I have heard that turn-based stuff is notoriously difficult on the programming side. And third, making something weird and potentially slow-moving might not resonate with the community or make for a very good video, and I really didn't want them to roast me. But I committed to the idea anyway. If they want something original, they're gonna get something original. So I started by rolling up a tile generator and targeting system. I didn't use Unity's tiling system because I am stubborn and foolish and didn't want to learn it. So instead, I basically recreated all of the parts just that I needed for this game. Which is, I will say, not a terrible thing to do, because Unity's tiling system is good at doing a lot of different games and game formats and perspectives, but that means it's not really great at doing any of them. It's kind of quirky and there's like a lot of functions that you won't need, stuff like that. By the end of the first day, the grid generator could make grids of any size, randomly scatter traps, automatically calculate the danger numbers, and I could make a piece move and trigger a game over state. Next, it was time to add some more characters which would differentiate from each other based on their abilities. As I was drawing the characters, this story started developing. The king would be this goofy, incompetent ruler. After sending so many of his subjects on adventures, he wanted to go on one of his own. The queen would be his long-suffering partner, who would have to come along and steer him so he didn't die. I thought it was kind of of a funny parallel to regular chess where the king is the slowest and most vulnerable piece, and the queen is the most threatening and versatile one. I also made these pawns, which have a little less personality, but that's okay because there's more of them and I didn't want the player to feel bad when they accidentally lose one. The king kind of wandering freely came to me during this day, and it is quite chaotic. But I thought he also functions kind of like a timer. He moved slow enough that the queen could manage him with lures while the pawns went and disarmed the traps. Even though it's stressful, the fun comes from having to manage and balance your attention in that way. Then came abilities. Each ability has a targeting range or targeting style, which I was able to use the same functions that I used for the movement styles. The system is really extensible, so I thought there was a lot of potential there to create some interesting, game-changing skills. By the end of the day, I had set up a state machine that lets you move pieces and execute abilities in exactly that order. Anything else was going to take some menus and UI, which I was low-key dreading. Day 3, user interface. Okay, I did it. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't finished yet, and I wanted the code to be so much nicer, but I couldn't quite figure it out, so here it was. It was time to add another piece, so I turned the queen purple and called her a bishop. Then I came up with this bless ability that the bishop would have for temporary invulnerability. That could be useful for getting the king across traps, or maybe covering for a potential impending mistake. And then I did this wacky shader effect that replaced all the black on the sprite with these neon rainbows, just to erase any doubt over whether you were actually invincible. Day 4, the turning point. And I mean that in the most literal way possible. See, the queen was so tall that she was blocking the pieces behind her, which made me realize why so many tactics games like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance use this isometric view, or why in games like Fire Emblem Awakening, they have much shorter character models that fit entirely within the grid. I flipped the camera around to see what it would look like in isometric, and I had to admit that it looked a lot cooler. However, this is where things got super stressful. As mentioned before, I've never worked in 3D before, so some of the ways of doing things that probably would seem really obvious to other people took a long time for me to figure out. Solutions that worked really well for one mechanic completely fell apart for another one, and at times I was wondering if this was actually going to work at all. Or worse, that the next devs would see my work and be like, what the hell was this idiot thinking? At about 4 AM, I went to bed with a broken game, plus I had to teach the whole next day, so time was really running out to solve these issues. Day 5, solutions. After work, I decided to just take the plunge and move everything except the sprites to 3D. I figured out a camera angle that worked, swapped out all the colliders, redid a lot of the under the hood stuff. With everything working again, it was time to break it. I rewrote my turn system and created some more hideous menus that let you move or use abilities in any order. You could also end your turn at any time or cancel an action that was in progress. Genuinely one of the more difficult things I've programmed, and I'm still pretty proud of it. With everything working again, the next days were going to be dedicated to fun. Day 6. Music. Being a composer and a music producer first, I knew I had to do some music for this. A lot of people don't know this, but I am a huge early music fan. I sing in a Renaissance early Baroque ensemble, and I listen to Palestrina for fun. The track I came up with for this is really more of like a bardcore or a troubadour style, but it's hard to go wrong with tambourine, guitar, recorder, and bowed strings. Day 7, packaging. With such an unusual game design, I really needed a way to show the next devs how the game was supposed to work. So I spent some more time fleshing out my level design system so that would be a smooth experience for them to create with, and then I designed a bunch of levels in sequence, adding a little tutorial box up in the top corner to explain the mechanics as they were introduced. I also had time to add the rook, who can build and destroy walls. Then at the last second, I had this little crisis and I thought, what if the king moving is really not fun and I'm the only person in the world who will understand or care about this mechanic, and I need to make it all turn-based. Luckily, it didn't take too long to add this little toggle in the game manager for wandering versus turn-based. The reveal. Months passed. I was starting to wonder if the project had fallen apart somewhere, or if it was broken beyond repair, or it was just not good enough to finish. But then I got another message with the final build of the game. And let me tell you, I was so excited when I opened it up. The core of the game was still there, but it was like so expanded. My buddy Joe Sullivan added these spike traps that doubled down on the importance of timing your turns. Data Blob added sounds and voices that added so much personality to the game. Ollie of Mashup Games made both modes from my toggle into a reality, and Strompy added so much to the visuals and made so many more level designs possible. Cartboard picked up this huge code refactor, and Mr. Lonely DK brought it all together into a finished product. And of course, we need to give huge shoutouts to Blackthorn Prod and Editor Dual Wielded for putting together the team of devs and the video itself. The final result was that people absolutely loved it. Lots of commenters were saying that it was their favorite past the game. They would actually really love to play this one, that it was like super polished, and lots of other really nice and specific things about my part of the work. In fact, I don't think I've ever gotten such a positive response to anything I've ever been a part of. So if you came here from that video, thank you. It has been super encouraging as a dev, especially considering that I'm pretty new to this. I've only been doing game dev for 2 years. So, what's next for King's Game, you may be asking? Well, I don't know. We had a quick talk in the final debrief about getting the band together and finishing the game, this time with communicating. It might even be an official Blackthorn video, I don't know. I have a bunch of ideas about where the game could potentially go, but I would feel weird about taking it there without the input from the other devs. I do definitely think it needs some more work before it's able to be fully shipped. There's a number of bugs left to be squashed, and a lot of the mechanics that have a lot of potential for being fun are sort of underutilized. Which makes a ton of sense because we didn't get very much time and we didn't get to communicate. I could also foresee some potential complications in publishing the game, especially if there's like payment involved. So I'm not sure what will happen, but don't be surprised if you end up hearing about King's Game again in the future. I'm Dryden Thomas, and if you liked the video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Also, I have some very exciting news that's going to be dropping in the next week, so stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one.